Hey, thanks for checking out The Caleb Show, which is brought to you by nobody. Whether you're listening just because you know me, you clicked on the wrong podcast, or because you're genuinely interested, I'm going to do my best to give you a good listening experience. Now, without further ado, sit back, relax, and maybe grab a snack, like a Pop-Tart or something, and enjoy this episode of The Caleb Show. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening yet again. And today it's just going to be me. It's a solo episode today on this bright but cold, sunny March day. And today I'm going to talk about something that is quite opposite of what I see outside, which is, the sun and happy vibes. I'm going to talk about some stresses that I've had and hopefully some viewer stresses as well, because I posted a poll on Instagram, and we might just be able to help talk through some stresses. And I think something that helps get over those stresses is just kind of talking about it and reflecting on it, because most of these that I'm going to talk about, for myself at least, I've gotten over or I've overcome, and some are happening right now. I think just taking the time to sit down, view it from a different lens than when you're actually going through like a stressful situation. I think looking at it just the way it is and accepting that can kind of help you get over it. So that's what we're going to do today. So we're just going to go ahead and get into it. Oh yeah, first of all, sorry it's been so long since the last podcast episode. And I think that's a good thing to kind of start with. Is one thing that has kind of stressed me out is last year once school started, I feel like I had way too much on my plate that I wanted to do. I feel like that's one thing, if you can take away from this podcast today, is do not put too much on yourself in terms of what you want to accomplish. Like even from my day-to-day, I wanted to take a photo, completely develop a photo. I wanted to make like a masterpiece a day, and that's just not possible. It takes time to compose like a good shot and think of ideas, and you're not going to have ideas for like a photo, for example, every single day that's good. And I was on top of that, I was trying to journal every day. I was trying to stay on top of my homework and actually read every word that was assigned to me in like a reading, which I've learned that skimming now is my best friend. And the podcast just kind of fell behind because I couldn't keep up with all the other stuff I was doing on top of the podcast. Plus, I wanted to keep up with the podcast. I really did, because monetization was a thing and I was going to start getting ads on my podcasts, which was nice, but I needed more listeners, and the only way to get more listeners is to post more. So I was trying to organize and think of all these podcast episodes, and then on top of this, I'm in a fully committed relationship with my wonderful girlfriend. I love hanging out with my friends. I can't sacrifice, at least, well, I could, but I can't sacrifice that time with my loved ones and stuff like that for podcast, and on top of homework and everything else. And I also work part-time, so it was a lot, man, and like that was kind of getting at me. And then one day eventually the podcast just kind of fell, and I didn't really realize that I could just do these one-off episodes like by myself. But here we are. I always kind of wanted my podcast to be me talking to somebody, but I realized that talking by myself too, I can still get something said, at least, or so I think, or so I hope. And I hope this mic is good too. That's another stressful thing, is like I was using my Mac built-in microphone to record these podcasts, and then now I have this mic here with me that I hope is catching the audio pretty good. And I guess we'll see. Well, there's only really one way to find out. So yeah, that's the one that we'll start with, I guess. Is one thing that did stress me out is I put way too many tasks on myself to keep up with, and I can keep up with all of these tasks. It's just the main thing I think that kind of holds me back is school, because for 16 weeks, twice out of the year, you need to just go full-time with school, and you don't really have time to do any other creative endeavors. Like, you don't really want to do any other creative endeavors. There's been so many days where it was awesome out, like awesome weather out, and I could have went and like took some photos or just went and wrote by the pool in my apartment complex, so I could have taken a walk and just got inspiration that way. But I'd get home from class and I would just go on my phone, because that was the comfortable thing to do after a long day of class. And then now it's this semester, I have 3 night classes 3 days in a row, so I have all day pretty much just to myself to get homework done for those classes, and then I go to class and then I come back and it's like my day's over. So it's been tough, but I've been better at it. At the start of 2024, of putting myself out there and making myself go get inspired, and I've definitely thought more about what tasks to put on myself, so I'm not overdoing it, if that makes any sense. So I'm done way better at it this semester, and here I'm finally getting the podcast started up again, because I got nothing else to do. So maybe this could become like a Sundays thing if I have time off from work on Sundays or something like that. Definitely gonna try and do it once a month, because it is really fun seeing it all come together and seeing the people watch it who do watch it. And I love looking at the analytics. But anywho, I guess we'll go into a more recent stress now. Oh, there goes my mic. We'll go into more recent stress now. This one is happening right now, and my roommates for next year, we're trying to get a house downtown Grand Rapids, Michigan. And, finding a house, especially this late into the, signing process, is pretty tough. There's not many options, and it also really sucked when our top choice got taken off the market, just suddenly, because we didn't apply quick enough. And, that's definitely something I've been keeping in mind after that is, if we do really like somewhere, we should apply quickly. And another thing is, there are application fees and stuff for most houses too, which, it's kind of a lose-lose if you're a college kid, because you can apply for $45 and still not get the house. All of you can do all the right steps and you still won't get the house over somebody else. And that's something hard to deal with, especially when, I'm not the richest guy in the world. I'm not necessarily broke either, but I just don't have the willpower in me to, apply to a bunch of houses that have application fees and stuff. And then, you see the security deposit, and oh man, there you go, there's $700 down the drain. So that's been something stressful, and it's hard to find one that, fits all of our preferred needs. And when some of ours are different too, it's hard to, it's just hard to view it all at once, I guess, because, if you look at houses every day, you see the new ones, you see which ones go. I guess through that, I'm more able to view my options and kind of give us a hodgepodge of stuff that we can choose from. It'd be different if we didn't look at all before, and then just now today decided to start looking at houses, because we would have absolutely nothing. But we found some hole in the wall houses that we could go for and stuff, and we're gonna set up a couple more tours and we'll get it figured out. At the end of the day, that's the thing with all of these. It's I feel like I have the boy mindset of just oh, it is what it is. We'll figure it out. We'll thug it out. And I know it'll work out. It will. And it's just tough when you're in the moment. And it is weird, because I realize I'm in this moment right now that I'm going to look back on later and be why did I get so stressed out over that? It was literally fine. But I think maybe the thing is with that we should be stressed out in these moments, because then what if I wasn't stressed out about this and I was too laxed and then it didn't work out? Maybe because things work out is because we stress about them, and that makes us work harder on it. Just a thought. I feel like I'm what are those majors called? Philosophy major right now. I feel like I could be a professor. Dang, that might have been some facts I was spitting. But anywho, yeah. So we're still looking for houses, and we'll find one. We got some tours lined up, so we'll be good. I'm waiting for them boys to get back from spring break. I guess that could be another stressful thing is, I guess I didn't get to go on a spring break trip this year, and a bunch of my friends didn't either, but a bunch of my friends did, and it's like, damn, I went to Cancun last year, and that was really fun, and it was just me and 6 other friends who went, and, I'm surprised now to know that I had, the money to spend on that trip last year. I'm pretty sure we all spent like $1,000 for flight and for the 5-night stay in that all-inclusive resort, which was a great deal, by the way. Shout out Corinne. She was our travel agent and set us up pretty good. But anywho, this year I just did not have the money, and I was like so surprised that I did last year. I was just way better at managing my money last year, I think, and the place I work at now, it's a lot less busy, so the money's not as good too, so that's also a factor. But it's also hard because in my junior year of college, I feel like it's your most important year, aside, like, along with high school, your junior year is your most important too. So I feel like maybe it's just every college junior is broke, and I know I could ask people if I needed help with money ever, but you also, in your head, you don't really want to ask people for money as well. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah, money's definitely been a stressful thing. And like I was saying earlier with the house security deposit, like, sheesh, if I'm like 2 months in advance prepared for rent in case I lost my job or something, then having to pay that security deposit would only put me 1 month ahead in rent, and then say I lose my job or something like that, and then I have no income, and then it's like, well, shit, what happens then? So I'm just always like thinking about that, especially when you look at your bank account and you're like, eesh, it's seen better days. It's just, it's another stressful thing we have to deal with, but I won't lie, talking about it is helpful, and just being vulnerable with yourself is helpful as well. I feel like we have this tendency to think that we're indestructible, and that makes our character not as worth it. And I think being vulnerable with ourselves to realize that we don't have to be perfect, we just have to be good enough for ourselves is really all that matters. And right now I'd say I'm being good enough with myself. I kind of am allowing myself to feast in this opportunity of not having like all the money in the world to go spring break or whatever. I used the break instead to go camping, and that was a inexpensive trip, and it was really fun, and it's something I'll remember for the rest of my life. It was my first time camping, so I used that as my trip this spring break, and I'm happy I went somewhere, and it was just somewhere completely new and different to me. It was like being in Cancun all over again, and it was fun. It was really fun, so I recommend going camping. It's cheap and it's fun. But yeah, that's enough on that. That's enough on money. I guess to piggyback off that, in order to get money, you need to have a job. And unfortunately, well, I guess it's probably a good thing, but unfortunately, Grand Valley, where I go to school, they require an internship. They require an internship as part of my writing major. So I need to complete an internship alongside. I need to take part in an internship and complete it within a semester. And I really fumbled the bag last summer because I could have gotten that finished, but the internship I applied for didn't get back to me until April, and I had already figured out my classes after that and stuff. So it's been a really long, 8 months of looking for an internship. I check the job postings and stuff every day. I've applied to 46 jobs. I've interviewed for 2. Didn't get the job for both of those. And the first one was a communications and marketing and position, intern in Grand Rapids, Zoom interview, didn't get it. I thought I had a good shot, but those are the worst ones where it's like, you can tell the interviewer likes you, but it hurts them too to let go of you. But and then the second interview I had was with a museum sector, more specifically like the Native American part of the Grand Rapids Museum. They were looking for an intern that would like develop some writing and do some, they'd basically help redo the exhibit they have in the Grand Rapids Museum by like writing the info down on the certain like artifacts and stuff and do research and stuff like that. Anyways, I went in person for that. It was like an 8 o'clock in the morning interview. Dressed up all nice, and they said I was a very competitive person for the role, but also didn't get it. And then went real dry with interviews after that for like a month and a half, and then now I have one lined up in 3 days for another social media position. So here's hoping that one goes well, and they say the third time is the charm for a reason. So yeah, we'll be taking the bus downtown for that. And yeah, I think it is, you don't realize how hard getting like an internship or a job where it's like no experience required, but I think it's just hard with the more people needing jobs. It's tough out here for that. So I've been dealing with that, but hopefully this interview goes well, and I'm gonna keep looking, gonna keep applying. So I check it every day. So I think if you're struggling with that, I would just say check. Handshake is a really good thing that's attached to your school, most likely, if you're looking for an internship that you can use to help find a job. And a lot of the jobs are like quick and easy apply, and that might be a way to just get a quick interview and let them learn more about you. And write the cover letters. I definitely recommend you write the cover letters. So yeah, that kind of leads me into my next one. You guys might have heard that I'm going to take the bus. You're probably like, well, why wouldn't he take his car? Well, lo and behold, to start off my spring break, I'm driving home from work at like 8:30, and I'm on the highway, and my car starts slipping gears. It would just slip from second gear right to like fifth and sixth, and my foot would be to the floor, and I wouldn't get any push out of the car. And keep in mind, I have a 2007 Chevy Trailblazer. It's had some work done on it before. My check engine light has been on for a while. That's on me. Should have got it checked, but it is what it is now. See, there it is. It is what it is again. But anyway, so I pull off, and I call my buddy, and he said that it's probably a transmission issue. And if you don't know cars like me, you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, basically it means you're paying like $4,000 or more to get your car fixed. So yeah, that's been another thing. Luckily, I'm fortunate enough to have an older sister that happens to be getting a new car soon, so I will be getting her old car, which is just, man, God bless that. But yeah, that's been, something I've had to plan around all break, like who's going to give me rides, whose car can I use when, who's going to give me rides to work, how am I going to get to class, So that's been just another thing added to the plate. And then I was just thinking about it today and yesterday. Man, I don't want to go back to school. Like, this break has been so good. This week has been really long, and I, wish for more weeks like this. It was just fun. I just kind of relaxed, and I'm so happy that second semester they just give you a whole week off instead of like kind of splitting it up into a few, like, couple days out of the week or something. Man, spring break this year was so good. And now I realize that I have to go back to class tomorrow and start reading stuff again and start doing stuff again, and it's a hard realization to go back to it after having such a great week off, but I know it's good for me, and I'm learning what I want to learn. And I know a lot of kids probably aren't satisfied with their schooling and what they're learning, and I can only hope that those who are struggling to find what they truly want to do find it. And it just takes time. And you got to go try things too. That's another thing, like experience. I never thought I would have liked camping until I tried it, and man, it was fun. I'll tell you what. So, yeah, you just got to get out there, put yourself out there in those situations where you think you might be uncomfortable until, then you find out you are comfortable. It's pretty crazy. One class I was not comfortable in, though, was psychology. It was intro psychology, freshman year at Grand Valley. It was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Wednesday. I said Wednesday, weird. It was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 9:50 a.m. class. And she didn't take attendance, and I feel like that's pretty typical for intro classes to not take attendance because they probably really don't care who shows up or who doesn't. It's kind of, they probably know it's a class that a lot of people take just as a gen ed or blow off. So I skipped a lot of the Fridays in that day, and probably quite a few of the Wednesdays and Mondays too, but mostly the Fridays. I can't remember if I went to class Friday much at all. And then exam time came around, and my grade in the class at this point was already like a C, and I did not do good on the final exam. I showed up late, like 50 minutes late to the final exam. I walked in, and there was only one other person in there, and my professor was like, "Oh, the exam started an hour ago." And I was like, "Oh my God." So I got the test, zoomed through it with like 30 minutes I had left. I had to answer like 60 multiple choice questions on a Scantron. And I'm pretty sure I got like a 50%. It was terrible. But thankfully, what I did do, because I was stressing out about it so bad, I knew I wasn't going to do good on the exam anyway, and just showing up late didn't help at all. I did a extra credit essay that gave me probably like 15 points of extra credit, and that allowed me to pass the class with a D+. So, needless to say, take your intro classes seriously, because those can be the ones that really screw you over. If I didn't pass that, I would have had to take an extra class over last summer or something like that. That would have just wasted more time for me. So that was my kind of wake up call end of freshman year. There were some other classes I didn't do the best in freshman year that I wish I did do better in because it would help my GPA. But sophomore year and this year I've recovered that GPA pretty well. So yeah, that's my message to you, is just take the intro classes seriously, and you might learn a thing or two. Let's see, another thing, I mentioned it earlier, I do work alongside school, and this kind of goes back to the money thing earlier. The lowest amount of money I've ever had was my freshman year. That was when it was right after Christmas. I like to buy everyone in my family Christmas presents, and my girlfriend's family is pretty big, like her immediate family, so I like to get all them gifts too. And after Christmas, I didn't have a job up here in Grand Rapids area, and I had like maybe $200 left in my bank account. And it was a rough time. I didn't really know what I was gonna do until by the grace of God, I was at a hangout, and one of my friends from high school said, "Oh, I work at so-and-so. This restaurant's called Vitali's in Hudsonville, Michigan, which is like a town like 15 minutes away from my school." So I reach out on Facebook, of all places. I messaged the restaurant on Facebook, and I set up an interview. I go in there, nail it, I get the job. And that job, saved my bank account for the second semester of freshman year. It really did. One thing that did suck, though, was that we'd get out really late sometimes. I remember there was one day we were there until like 1 a.m. They kept 4 servers on until like 1 because this cheer competition ended at like 10 on like a Wednesday night, and they all came there. All the parents, all the girls, all the like school people that watched the game, they all came for like the late night deals and stuff. And it was, restaurant was packed at like midnight. It was so weird on a school night. And, it sucked for me because, I got to get back late. I got a 10 a.m. class tomorrow, Oceans, to go to. So it was, those times were stressful, but thankfully that job did put me back on my feet money-wise. But yeah, sometimes closing there and even just going in there because, I don't know anybody besides that one friend. And, the managers were all like older, like can't really relate to them too much, and some of them had attitudes with me sometimes. So yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was enough. It was enough. So yeah, those are some stresses from me. I'll see who else has commented. We have a couple here we can talk about. Let's see, my buddy Aaron, he says that he stresses about maintaining enough time to enjoy my personal interests. And I feel like I touched on this at the beginning as well, and I totally agree that that is a stress that, you know, we can all have. And like I said, it's harder for him because he's going to Michigan in Ann Arbor, and he's in dentist school there. So I know that school is hard. I just know it's way harder than mine, and he definitely does not have all the time in the world to, you know, do his personal interests, because I know he's got a lot on his plate. But that's the thing. I think maybe the best way to go about this is re-looking at your dinner plate, I guess, is a good analogy for it. You know, evaluating it and seeing, you know, what food maybe you can take off to add the food that you really want. You know, if your dinner plate's full, take off the mashed potatoes and add some mac and cheese, you know. I don't know if that analogy makes sense, but thanks for the comment, Aaron. I totally agree. And yeah, I feel like I touched on it earlier, and that's kind of, I guess, my message toward it. And see, we have Sam File. He stresses about, well, I guess a college stress in general. I don't know if he's stressing about it in particular, but comparing yourself to others in terms of like your academics. Like, I never even thought about this, but it is something I struggle with as well. I feel like a personal example I have is, you know, I think I'm this amazing writer, right? I'm such a stuck-up writer. I think everything I make is like perfect. I think all the poems I write are gonna make it big on Instagram or TikTok, and I think that all the stories I write for my class are gonna blow the other students away and the professor away, and she's just gonna give me my degree right there. But that is not the truth. I find myself comparing my poetry and stuff to other students in my class, and man, I'm not even top 10 out of this like class of like 18 people, and it's stressful because, you know, I want to be a writer and I want to be this creative influence to other people, but how do I do that if my work isn't even the best right now? And I think that's something that, you know, I've kind of just allowed, like I said earlier, I allowed myself to be vulnerable. I'm allowing myself not to be the best and to be the student for once in this profession that I want to go into, that I thought I was already a pro at. And I think over this past year and a half, I've allowed myself to, you know, be taught. And it's been awesome because I can tell how much I've gotten better at writing and poetry and, you know, even reading and photography. I think like a writer now, and I'm noticing things in my other classmates' stories that I feel like, you know, I'm helping them out a lot too, because I allowed myself to be taught, and I know what to look for now in my writing that, you know, is frowned upon and is bad, or maybe there's something missing, and I know how to find it now because I allowed myself to be vulnerable and to be not the best. But this is in terms of like an art thing. It's way different, I'm sure, when it's like you're in a completely different area of study. I'm just thinking like marketing. Like, if you don't know the math, or if you don't know how to search for trends, or how to analyze data, or anything like that, like, I'm just trying to find basic marketing terms here. Like, I'm sure that's hard. If you have kids in your class that are way better than you, or, you know, get stuff way quicker than you do, that's got to be hard to deal with. And in college, I just haven't taken classes like that. I've had a stats class, but I knew I wasn't going into stats, so I didn't care. And I feel like that's the thing, is if you care and you are stressed about it, then that is probably a good thing, because that shows that you care, and that stress will make you make yourself better. And I feel like that's a good way to think about that. But it also sucks being stressed about it. So it's like a double-edged sword. Yeah, it's weird. Next on the discussion board was my friend Sam Shablock, and he said that a stressful thing for him was having to transfer schools. And this is something I never had to do. I feel like the closest thing I came to it was choosing a college, and I didn't stress about that decision at all. Like, coming to Grand Valley was a pretty easy decision for me, and I didn't really put much thought into it. But I'm thinking now, like, having to transfer schools, I think, can be stressful because you never know if all your credits are going to transfer, and the research having to be done for that, it's got to be pretty difficult considering that, you don't know if all your credits are going to transfer to a different school. And then on top of that, you have to find living out in that area, and especially if you go from community college to bigger college, everyone already has their own groups. All the people you're going to meet are already established because if they're going to be in your grade, like a junior or a sophomore, they already have their groups established. So it's not like you're on a totally uneven playing field than everybody else transferring from a different school. So, yeah, that is another tough thing I've never had to go through, but it's got to be stressful. It's got to be. I think one way to look at it, though, is, while on top of being stressful, it's something that, only you get to experience, I guess. And I feel like there might be a beauty in the transfer to a new school. And, you have a completely different story than most other graduates at that school. So I feel like that's another good way to look at it. And, most people who do transfer have to. And, they're often the ones who make the smarter decision. They save more money. And they are the ones who, just saving money. They're in less debt. And it's a smarter decision for sure to start off at, say, a smaller college and then go to a bigger one. So I think it's a stressful time for sure, but also in the long run you're doing yourself a favor. So those are my thoughts on that. Well, seems like those two responses are really the only ones we're gonna get. The poll's been up for 2.5 hours, and that's all right. At least we got something. And I think just the last thing I wanted to say, that a lot of these stresses are very minor things at the end of the day. In a couple of months, I'm going to look back at this and wonder why I was stressing so much. And like I said before, it's probably good to stress in the moment because then that forces you to take action to relieve it. But I know things could be much worse than what they are. And I know people who are having worse struggles than me in the same things. And I just want to say that I am grateful for everyone who helps me through these things. I don't want to seem ungrateful for everything I do have. This is just me talking about my feelings with things that are stressing me out personally. And I hope that me talking through these helps you a little bit with what you may be going through in your life, what stresses you might have. So I encourage you just to, sit down, look yourself in the mirror, and just take a deep breath. And if something's really stressing you out and you don't really have an answer, maybe just laying it out or writing it out on paper by talking about it can help you see it all at once. And it kind of makes you realize that you don't necessarily have to worry as much as you think. Think about all the support that you would get if you asked for it, and find comfort in your friends, find comfort in habits that you like, and I think at the end of the day, it's all going to be okay. That's my message. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you did all the way till the end, I appreciate it. And the Caleb Show is going to come back stronger than ever. And let me know what you guys think about the new mic, if you can respond somehow. Maybe on Instagram if you can. So, yeah, that's it. Have a good rest of your night, and see you in like 2 weeks. Peace.